Welcome to TMC Fee Models in a Post-COVID World. I'm David Meyer, Executive Director at the BTN Group. When COVID-19 hit and transactions ground to a halt, many travel management companies had no choice but to reevaluate their business models and structures to face a new reality. While we still appear to be far away from a post-COVID world, that doesn't help those. The new business reality has prompted many hard conversations among travel management companies and their clients. We're lucky today to get some insight from three TMC chief executives. So please join me in a vigorous virtual round of applause for J.D. O'Hara, CEO of Internova, formerly known as Travel Leaders, Kevin O'Malley, Chairman and CEO of Travel and Transport, and Ariel Cohen, CEO and founder of Trip Actions. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, David.
Thanks for being here. So I'm not going to use our precious time during this 45-minute session on their bios, which you can access on the Business Travel Show America app at your convenience. We're going to start off by hearing how each of the TMC leaders and their organizations have reacted to the COVID-19 crisis, and then we'll have some time to answer some of your questions. So please feel free to ask questions through the Q&A area on your screen as they occur to you, and I'll ask you questions and some others I've prepared once they've each had a chance to tell their stories. This is the only area I'll look for your questions, so you're free to chat amongst yourselves on the chat feature, but I'm only going to be using the Q&A to look for questions from you. Okay, let's get started. And the big question is, what's been the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on your business and your business model? Kevin O'Malley, please start us off.
Sure, David. Thanks for the question. It's been an interesting time for all. It's been a crazy time, almost unimaginable, I think, for most. Specifically, when you think about the TMC world, our transaction volumes have been down. If we're in the corporate side of the world, our transaction volumes have been down 90+% since March. Again, I don't think something any of us could have ever imagined coming into 2020. What it's forced TMCs to do is really have to look at everything in their business. Cash burn has become a focus for TMCs in particular, any travel business, a lot of businesses around the world, no matter what business line they're in. But in the TMC world, we've had to look at doing furloughs, I think a term that we'd all heard of, but hadn't been part of our businesses. There's been reductions in force. There's been reduced hours. There's been a lot of different things we've had to do to manage the cash burn to make you don't know how long a runway you need to get to the other side. And so it's been difficult for sure. Made our way through all this. As part of that, we've had to look at pricing models, which is why we're having the conversation today. I think coming into this pandemic, there's been a lot of conversation about whether the pricing model was already broken. Did we need to fix it? And I think the pandemic itself is just accelerating that conversation now. So you look at what's happening in our world, we still have hundreds and hundreds of people working every day. And they're doing a lot of different things. We're having to continue to invest even though we're trying to control our cash burn. So we continue spending a lot on IT, building out platforms to deal with the new realities of the world, online platforms, portals, mobile solutions, duty of care platforms, pre-trip platforms, all those kind of things. We're all trying to get ready for what the other side of COVID looks like. We're having to figure out where to curate all the information. There's no one central place where we can get at all the information about airlines, hotels, borders, quarantines, all those kinds of things. So we're all working on information and put it into point of sale and all of our online processes. We're continuing to provide account management. We're continuing to talk to suppliers. We're lobbying on behalf of TMCs and the travel industry on how the travel ecosystem returns, spending a lot of time researching technology solutions. So we're busy doing a lot of things in preparation for the return. But the balance in all this is we're trying to do it in a zero revenue environment or virtually zero revenue environment for most of us. And it's just not a sustainable model. So as I said before, it's accelerated the conversation around what does the pricing model have to look like. I think the pricing model is one where we're looking at it, and it's not ultimately about trying to get paid more. It's trying to make sure that we have enough revenue coming in for the core services we provide, so that we're healthy on the other side. Operations, and they want us here. They're going to need us to be part of this. And so those conversations for us, and I think for many, are underway with the customer, and we're having a lot of conversations. It's really more a conversation about sharing the risk. The TMC can't sit in a position where we take 100% of the risk and have all the cost if we're going to be healthy on the other side of this. And there's a lot of things that corporations want to make sure that we're doing so that we're ready for their travelers when travel resumes. Some of them obviously still have travelers traveling right now. So I think as we move forward, when we think about it, it's not just in the past. So much of the focus was I call in or I get online. It's about booking an air, a car, a hotel, a rail. And I think from our perspective, it's going to be a lot more about the journey. We've talked to our customers about it, and they're saying our travelers are going to need a lot of assistance around, can I go? Should I go? May I go? Does my company permit? What's the journey prep? Make sure we're ready and service travelers today, and then where we go from here.
Thanks, Kevin. You were cutting out a little bit, but we heard most of that. JD, what's been the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on your business and your business model?
Well, certainly, like what Kevin said here, it's certainly not been easy on us. We've had to go through the furloughing, and we've had to cut costs, and we've had to look at weighing the pros and cons of each dollar that goes in and out. And we're certainly in a cash conservation mode right now relative to normal times. So, it's taken a toll on us. I think, I took the role of CEO back in January, and as the luck of the Irish would have it. And, we looked at integrating our Altour and Travelers corporate businesses long before the pandemic, but this has kind of provided an opportunity for us to really reassess things. I didn't have a pandemic in the business plan, but I think probably, we put in place measures to manage our costs, and we've spent the past kind of several months reorganizing the business. And I think we're extremely well positioned when we come out of the other side. I think the hardest part here is just not knowing when and what the shape of that may be. So, we remain in close contact with our customers, and this is a personally challenging time for many of our colleagues. And so we're looking at quickly implementing new travel policies where it makes sense. I think on a personal note, I've certainly seen, all four of my children have joined business calls, and I've seen outfits on some of my colleagues at work that I otherwise wouldn't have preferred to see. But we're kind of, I hate using the cliche, but this is truly we're all in this together. And I'm sure that Kevin and Ariel both feel the same way, that this can't end soon enough, but it's certainly presented an opportunity to reassess things.
I believe that Kevin had said that in a previous call that actions dropped to 97%.
If you're asking, you're cutting in and out, so I'm sorry. Go say it again, please.
Sure. My understanding is that your transactions had dropped initially to 97%, and they're now at 91%. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The first couple months, March, April, we were down 97%. May, we were down 95%. June, we got back to 90%. And then, with things firing back up in the States and in other countries around the world, we saw a fallback a little bit as again, tri-state quarantines got put in place and different states were having issues. So, we were seeing the right trend going from 97 down to 90 down. Then we dropped back in July to 91 down, and that's kind of how August came in as well. So we've kind of stayed above, unfortunately, that down 90% threshold.
And JD, is that similar for you? Are you at the same level of transactions?
Yeah, I think not quite that level, and it's ebbed and flowed week to week. We've seen, I would imagine industry-wide, we've seen transactions kind of since that middle of April timeframe increase until about the end of June, early July, where we had a bit of a dip, but it's slowly been increasing since. And so, we'll take whatever positive momentum we can get, but it's not yet at levels to be excited about at this stage. But we didn't quite reach those levels, but you know, a lot of our transactions also, we kind of lean towards the international market in terms of air at least, and so certainly transactions have been down there, whether our clients want to travel or not. You know, governments aren't even allowing them in the country in certain cases. So our transactions weren't down quite that level, but certainly not far off.
And Ariel, you've also felt an impact, although you have a slightly different story. Can you tell us what the initial impact is and where you're at today?
Yeah, first of all, from a usage perspective, this is bookings. Definitely, we've seen impact very similar to what Kevin and JD are seeing. And actually, similar story, June kind of recovery and July flattening. August was actually starting to get really interesting in terms of growth. But I think it's combination of probably more people traveling with us, deploying some of our enterprise wins from March, April, May. So I think it's a little bit different story, which is also kind of different the way that we are looking at our business. We do look at obviously travel bookings and what we do there, but we are also looking at how much net new business we are, we are adding during this time, and actually we are very happy with the results around that. So it's kind of two different stories that are happening in parallel.
And it looks like you've actually found some opportunity in the chaos, Ariel, because I see today the news about the launch of your Enterprise Edition. So does this launch represent an attempt to compete with the major TMCs in this time of flux?
Yeah, we if you think about us in the last 2 years, we started to go more and more up market while maintaining our position in a commercial SMB. So we basically started to develop the new segment for us, and that's in the last 2 years. And to do that, right, we needed to invest a lot in infrastructure, right? So we needed to go globally. We believe that today we have the best unified platform on the planet. That's because we are capable of going globally, connecting to a lot of content sources, while having the ability to have one system that you get inside. You can see quickly where your employees are, how do you spend your money, and so on. So our Enterprise Edition is all about the emphasis about the business travel manager, the CFO having the ability to quickly assess their travel program, and doing it globally from one system really, really easily. So that's the Enterprise Edition. We are actually very excited. We launched it today. A lot of work in the last 6 months around it. That's really around the product. You could see it with our recent analytics edition, reporting, the TMC editions, and so on. So really, really exciting news for us.
Great. Well, maybe you'll take issue with that, JD, but how have you worked with clients to come up with a new fee structure that provides reasonable compensation in this time of lower transactions at the same time?
I missed the tail end, but I think I got the gist of it, David. So first of all, I take no issue. I think there's plenty of space for all of us to compete, and I think this is a unique industry in that regard, where I've got a tremendous amount of respect for my colleagues here on the screen. So we've got a few different business models at Internova that cater to kind of all types and sizes of corporate clients. But as it relates to new fee structures, we're certainly having that discussion now. But for us, it's important to note that each of our clients kind of have a different level of service that's required right now. And so with that in mind, we made a deliberate decision. As I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on cost, as are most of the industry is at this point. But we made a deliberate decision early on to avoid cost reductions in the area of account management. And so, we knew that our clients would need our advice and our advocacy throughout the duration. So it allows us to keep the lines of communication open and in what's kind of become an ever-changing environment. So I know that some of our competitors have introduced a per call fee, regardless of what their existing contract says, and that may work for them and their clients, but we prefer to speak with each of our clients to design a bespoke commercial arrangement that makes sense for them and makes sense for us as well. So we're not simply going to impose fees on our clients. We've been successful for a long time because of our flexibility and we need now to exhibit that flexibility more than ever. So yeah, to answer the question in short, yes, we've worked with various clients to determine new fee structures, but there really hasn't been a cookie cutter approach per se as of now.
Great. And Kevin, what's your approach in working with your clients? And as I was trying to say to JD, in a moment when there's lower transactions, but even a greater need for service, how are you getting to an equation that makes sense for both parties?
We're approaching it much like JD and his company are. We're out having a lot of conversations with customers. We've been doing it for the past probably 3 months, where a lot of it's been conversation to this point in time. It hasn't been going out with a mandate, but to say the model has to change, and we're not looking for more overall, but we do need to have a fixed fee portion to this to cover the cost of doing what you expect us to do and doing the things that are going to make your travelers feel safe when travel returns. And so we're having different conversations. We're having conversations about a program management fee as a fixed portion of the program. We're having conversations about, there's some that say, well, I want to stay in a transaction fee model. So there's conversations about having a minimum number of transaction fees that somebody's going to pay for, irregardless of the number of bookings that come through in a month. There are some customers, depending on the line of business they're in, that want to look at a SaaS model, some kind of a subscription model. So we're having some conversations to say, do we charge an amount per traveler, per profile traveler on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, however it might work. Like JD said, we've seen some of the competitors do contact fees. So I think there's a lot of different ways to get there ultimately. And the focus is really, it's focused on changing the structure ultimately of how this works so that we can make sure that we're doing everything that our customers want and need.
So Kevin, for most of your clients, is this the end of dedicated agents?
Well, it's a good question. Is it the end? Not necessarily. I think right now it's awfully hard to provide dedicated agents unless an account wants to pay for those dedicated agents. Most accounts just aren't doing enough business or scale to have dedicated agents that you can pay for it through a traditional transaction fee model. We really have virtually no way to predict demand at this point in time. And so I think most TMCs, I can speak for ours, but I talked to a lot of my peers. A lot of us have had to go from, if we had designated teams or dedicated teams, dedicated agents, we've had to go to more of a super call group, bigger groups to deal with the unknown demand. It's the only way, again, keeping in mind we're all burning millions of dollars of cash every month. And customers have been very understanding, by the way, in all this, because there's been a very open conversation about it. But so we do have some dedicated agents still today where the customers have chosen to pay for it. And I think for the foreseeable future, right now, if we say to our customers, how do you predict your demand is going to come back? Most of them can't answer the question. Therefore, we don't know how to predict how the demand is going to come back. So I think you're going to see TMCs have to run more of that bigger call group as we all figure out how it comes back and we all talk to each other. In time, could there be dedicated agents? If there's enough scale, maybe. But in the interim, I think the only way that you're going to see dedicated agents on most accounts is if the account is willing to pay for those dedicated agents.
So we're going to push our technological luck here and see if we can bring in Goldstring Consulting partner Will Tate to the conversation. So Will, can you join us? Maybe not.
Okay. Hello, David.
There you are.
Oh, so nice to see everybody. Hello. I got a side stage view of this incredible panel. Thanks for including me.
So, Will, I wanted to get your input on. I've been talking to the TMC chiefs here about how they've been working with their clients to make things to make the equation work for both parties. How are the clients approaching it? I think my understanding is they've been pretty understanding of the TMC spot here and working with them to try to figure out how to go forward. What's been your experience?
I think you're exactly right. Anytime we get challenges like this, it also creates new opportunities. And smart buyers have always been successful by innovating and being flexible. And that's what this time calls for. So the partnership word that we've thrown around for a lot of years may have been a little bit less important and vital to our success than it ever was before. So we're in a spot today where I think any sort of mature program would tell you that foundationally The TMC is where they hang traveler experience and digital transformation and duty of care. They hang all of that off of the infrastructure that the TMCs provide. And because of that, it's really a great position to innovate and provide flexible solutions with your TMC partners. So with that being said, it's going to be a difficult place for buyers to accept risk without some either equivalent or improved value. So as these conversations about fees change, I think the discussions are going to be, again, innovative and flexible to say, here's a new way of looking at it, but in return, here's a new value proposition or something expanded or something transformed. And I understand from our client base, they are very eager and willing to have those dialogues, but it's just defining those in a way that is acceptable to sort of traditional procurement practice and customers accepting supplier risk.
Fantastic. And so, what are the fee models that look to be the most promising ones from the buyer perspective, Will?
I think buyers are open to all of the things that everyone on the panel has already shared. The concept of either subscription, Kevin mentioned SaaS models, maybe some fixed program management fees. I think they're okay with all of that. It's the clear delineation of what we're buying and what we're paying for. So it's consumption versus expensed. And the challenge in some of these models is the definitions get a little broad, and it's difficult to pinpoint what services are being paid for and then what services are being consumed. So I think buyers are wide open to a detailed, deep level discussion around this is what we need, this is how you can serve us, let's find that new model forward.
And do you think that dedicated agents is something that buyers will be paying for in the short term?
Not in the short term, I don't think so, but I certainly think that will come back. Many of our customers were in those models of those dedicated, and they appreciate the learnings that get accrued to the company account, the uniquenesses of the culture, the uniquenesses of the O&Ds and the different cultural marketplaces they attend. So I think dedicated is always going to be a backup option for those organizations that are looking maybe for that higher service level.
And JD, do you agree? Is it dedicated agents something that we're going to see more of in the future?
Yeah, I think, ask anyone who was traveling and didn't use an agency to help them get out of a bind, and I think, I think the dedicated agent is going to be even more important. I think in the short term, when transactions are where they are, it's going to be difficult to justify that payment. But yeah, we're long on the dedicated agent model, and we believe that service is going to be of paramount, and that's the business we're in, is service. So perhaps I would agree with Will, I suppose, in the short term, but I would say in the medium and long term, I would say it's going to be even more prevalent.
And JD, there's a question from one of our attendees saying the furloughs have affected everyone, but how will you handle furloughs on the TMC side when the buyer starts opening up travel? Will you be able to provide the support and customer service we would expect?
Yeah, so we have made a very conscious set of decisions that we would furlough where we can, but not to the point where we can't service our client. Again, service is of paramount for our business, paramount importance to our business and to our clients. And so we are on a day-to-day basis measuring transactions and revenue, and even looking elsewhere to see, I think most of us saw that the TSA transactions were up over the long weekend. That unfortunately probably wasn't a lot of corporate travel, but that may be an indication of what's to come. And so on a day-to-day basis, we're looking at revenue, transactions, and we'll continue to leak the furloughed employees back in to service the client. We have to service the revenue, and so that's not an expense but an investment, is the way that we see it. So we're going to continue to monitor that, and as revenue returns, we'll continue to bring expenses back in.
You see it the same way, Kevin?
Yeah, very much the same. Right now, if you look at the number of people that we have answering phones or ready to answer phones, we're overstaffed. Even at a time when we're burning cash, we've got to make sure, not knowing demand, we've got to make sure we're there for the customer. So much like I think JD thinks of it, we've got to be here for the customer. we've told our furloughed employees, we want you back. You will be back as soon as we can bring you back. And as the volume returns, we will be calling people back on very, very quickly. So we have a lot of employees that are the great majority of our employees. It's been pretty inspiring, really, when you think about the conversations we've had and what a lot of people are having to endure and go through while on furlough and the not knowing. But a great majority of our people are holding on, and they want to service those customers that they've taken care of for a long time. They're ready to come back. It's just a matter of the demand coming back, and we'll be ready when it does come back.
My understanding, Ariel, is that you look at it similarly, but with a kind of a tech company twist. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think we are kind of running, the service is aiming towards the business traveler, but we are running a completely different business model. So we've invested a lot on our infrastructure to allow us to scale up and scale down based on needs. Seasonality is part of this, winter and storms. And, actually we saw it during COVID. It came extremely handy, in March. We saw in one day, all of the travel between the US and Europe getting canceled, and we still maintained really high, support, satisfaction, SLA, and so on. So we were able to do that because of the way that our infrastructure is working, which is kind of interesting in the context of the dedicated agent. We basically built an internal infrastructure that allows to create a lot of personal touch while it is a 24 by 7 global service, right? So our technology right now is really becoming handy in the context of COVID and really enabling us to, when we are signing a new account, right? We just last month we added an account in the size of AECOM, which are a pretty big account, and they're actually traveling. So when you're signing an account on that level, you have to be able to know that you can support them, whether you furlough the employees or not. And this is where our technology is super, super important. And I would add that regarding to pricing, what I would encourage the industry to maybe think through is I think we have a similar moment to you think about it of Netflix 20 years ago, right? Back then, the business model of Blockbuster was really based on the late fees, right? The ability to pay another fee and another fee and another fee. And Netflix really challenged that notion back then, basically coming with one price. And I believe that there is an opportunity here to stick to one price, very simple, transparent, making the customers aware this is what you're going to pay per trip. So I'm really encouraging everybody to use the opportunity here to really rethink pricing and making it super simple, super transparent. I think it will help all of us.
I think it was President Obama who said, "Don't waste a crisis," or something like that. Has this crisis created an opportunity for you, Kevin, to focus on using more technology to supplant labor?
Yeah, I think with the slower volumes and those kinds of things, we're spending a ton of time trying to figure out where we have manual processes. Some are our own doing, and some we're having conversations with customers to say, let's rethink some of your processes and talk about what things we might be able to automate. We're making sure we're really focused on getting as much as we can into people's hands, both online portal, mobile, those kinds of things. So how do we make sure that information is there? I think the trick is going to be making sure that the talk time, for example, doesn't double because people need so much information when they call in. So what's available at my fingertips, when I go out and I want to figure out if I should I go, those kinds of things as I kind of head out on the journey. So yeah, we're spending a ton of time on trying to figure out how to get as many things digital as we can, and looking for efficiency as well, both on our own side and with the customer as well.
And is there, JD, do you also see an opportunity here to ramp up technology?
Yeah, I think there's always room for technology, but I don't think that the human advisor can be replaced. I think there's room for both, and each play a pivotal role. So I think driving ongoing efficiencies without compromising, I'll say it again, service is the key to a healthy travel business. And, we implemented chat many years ago. We've invested heavily in the front, mid, and back office to ensure that we eliminate and reduce, I guess, unnecessary touches that create unnecessary costs. So we move some work offshore, but that works sometimes and it doesn't other times. AI is another area that we've focused on. I don't know that the pandemic actually has created the opportunity so much as just that's the way the industry is going. And I think, I guess we were fortunate. We had 99% of our business travel agents were virtual. We didn't have a large real estate footprint to deal with, and so we were kind of already using technology to service our clients. Even I guess one of the benefits that we were able to take advantage of was we negotiated a contract with the state of New York for our travel advisors. What they do is they take bookings. So we wanted to keep them warm. We wanted to keep them employed. And so we negotiated a deal with the state of New York where they took bookings for, guess what, COVID testing, right? So that was something we were really proud of to enable our clients or enable our advisors to stay employed, first of all, but also kind of on the sidelines where we can bring them back at any point. Reimagining how we deliver services is just a job that's never going to be finished. And I think technology certainly plays an important role in that.
Definitely. So Ariel, how has this drop in transactions due to COVID impacted what you're trying to do with GDSs and airlines when it comes to NDC development?
Yeah, I've mentioned it earlier. For us to release our enterprise edition, global content is a big part of it and a key to this. And we achieved it through two different methods. One, we are connected to all of the GDSs, right? So we are connected to Amadeus, Sabre, even Travel Fusion, and so on. But we are also extremely bullish on NDC and Direct Connect, right? So we are connected to Lufthansa using NDC. Same with United. We are connected directly to Southwest. We are continuing to invest in connections with more airlines, right? So for us, that's a way to go global and fast and to develop a system that can support our customers with one system globally. So for us, it's a continuing this investment. We are very, very committed to bring every content that is out there to our platform, whether it's on the air side or the hotel side.
JD, there's a related question here from one of our attendees. Do you feel that with COVID-related decline in travel and with NDC looming on the horizon, that there'll be a more increasing dependency on TMCs or a shift away from centralized travel program management?
Oh, I think a greater dependency. Again, I think the advice and the expertise of a well-appointed travel advisor is going to pay in dividends. I think we saw online transactions on a relative basis, of course, right? So we support all the different online travel booking tools, and so they're down about 50% on a relative basis. And to me, that makes sense. Travelers want to consult with an expert before booking, and certainly while they're on the road. So no one wants to show up somewhere without the proper documentation or understanding of the local quarantine regulations. And so I think that the service can't be replicated with technology, and so I think it's going to be a healthy way of doing business going forward.
It's a service business, so it's all about service, right, Kevin? What has been the impact on account management, and how do you address the need for productivity in a moment when there are kind of a smaller workforce and kind of bigger demands on the remaining workforce?
Well, from an account management perspective, there's still high demand from our customers to have conversations. Like JD said earlier, people are looking at policy. They're looking at how do we handle pre-trip, how do we handle duty of care, a lot of different things. How are we have a lot of people saying, how are we going to get the information to the travelers? I think one of the questions that you're getting right now is, to the extent I was letting that rogue traveler go outside the travel program, there's not any way in the world I'm going to let them do that. Just let them go and see what happens, given that the number one concern is safety. And it always has been, but never before has it been more front and center. So how do I make sure, in working with the account manager, that I get people inside the program that were outside the program, and those kinds of things. So our account managers are busy talking to our customers. There was a period of time, I think in March and April, the world kind of stopped in travel, at least in our world, and I think everybody sat back and tried to figure out where the world was going, and maybe there wasn't as much demand. But now, as people are really, we're in September. Hopefully, there's a cure of some sort, on the horizon, and so people are getting busy talking about where we go from here. As far as the efficiency, it's tough, honestly, and so you have to make sure, as we talked about earlier, that you're staffed to make sure that we can take care of everybody that needs help. And I think TMCs in general are doing that, and they're eating the cost of doing that for the good of the long term, because at the end of the day, if we're not taking care of the customer's not going to be here. So you try and be as efficient as you can, but it's not a real efficient world right now, if we're being honest.
Ariel, do you have anything to add to what Kevin just said?
Yeah, definitely. I think that safety is super, super important, and actually, I think that there are two ways to address it. One, of course, the agent has to be informed. There is no question about that. The other, what the approach that we took is to make sure that in the booking experience, in the booking app, right, we are providing all of the information, which, by the way, is changing every day. We are providing all of the information on two aspects. One, safety. We used our data team to really focus the R factor. This is basically the reproduction of COVID in a location. That's kind of to give you an idea of safety if you're arriving to a location. But also we are providing the local governments or municipalities information, such as you fly to New York, you need to quarantine for 2 weeks. So if I'm going to the Trip Actions platform today and trying to book a trip, me as a passenger, as a traveler, I will get these two informations, but the business travel manager will also get this information. And we are giving the business travel manager a report on a daily and weekly basis. Here are your travelers, this is where they are, this is where they are going to be, and this is what we see from a data perspective, also CDC recommendations and so on. Our agents in our internal platform, we call it TravelZen, this is our internal platform, are seeing the same information. So if you had a chat with an agent, you've canceled the trip, you rebooked, you changed something, they see the same information. So we used a lot of technology. That's something that we started on the first week of March. We've used a lot of technology to make sure that our travelers are well informed, the business travel managers, and also our agents. So it's a lot of information and data.
Excellent. And Will, from your perspective, looking from the client view, where do they see the service levels that they've got today, and the productivity of agents, and how are they conducting that conversation with their TMCs?
As everyone said, we're in such an unsure time that the buyers are not able to adequately project out what those volumes will be, so therefore they can't have good long-term discussions. But when it comes to the productivity and efficiency that they're looking for, I think the word that we're all dancing around is trust. The travelers need to feel safe and secure when they travel. That means when they have those conversations with travel agents, they need to know that they're getting good and valuable advice at the right time to help them feel that safe, trusted trip. They need to know that travel managers are helping them work with suppliers on safety protocols and then bringing all that information to bear at the right time. And all of this trust network is a brand new kind of opportunity. Now, we could say that we've done that pretty well, but if you back up and go, let's say 5 years ago, we all worked hard to build the traveler experience because we have competitive solutions that are outside the designated channel. And we worked hard on that. This has sort of reset us to cost management and duty of care. And that reset is a really good thing because it's a strength that all the TMCs have, and it's something that the travelers crave. So this creates that opportunity to create a new dynamic that is going to not only for years to come.
So JD, certainly this situation has created a plethora of unused tickets. Is there an opportunity for you in managing those unused tickets for your clients? And how are you working with airlines regarding prepaid tickets?
Yeah, we realized pretty early on that maximizing unused tickets would be a pretty major challenge for travel buyers. So, supplier policies were all different and changing every single day, really. So we hosted a webinar for some of our clients back in April and then again in May and June. And we walked them through various technologies we've been using for a long time on how unused tickets could be applicable in almost every scenario with almost every carrier. So, since April, at least from our perspective, the system is relaxed, and I think that travel buyers are generally confident that they'll be able to recover the value of these unused tickets when travel resumes. So we feel pretty confident for our clients that unused tickets will come into good use.
Unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I want to ask Kevin, certainly there's a need for travelers to get information about what they can expect at airports and destinations when it comes to safety protocols. Is that a revenue opportunity for you?
Maybe, but I think, if I'm being honest, I think the expectation of the corporation, the travel manager, the travelers is that information is going to have to be there. So, we could say, well, we're going to go curate it, pull it together, put it at your fingertips, whether it's mobile, whether it's on the portal, whether it's online, whatever it may be, and you're going to pay for it. I think the way it will really play out is that if you want to be in the game, you're going to have that information, and it's going to be expected. If you can't provide the information, then I can't use you as a travel provider, as a TMC. So, I think early on, while we were all sitting here in a zero revenue environment, you're looking for any way to produce revenue. You think about things like that, but I think the way that it's going to play out, given how long this is taking and what we're all doing to try and be ready, is you're going to see all of us ready with our technology to answer the bell when it comes out. The travelers are going to be able to get that information. They're going to be able to research destinations, look into the rules, figure out quarantines, all those kinds of things. It's going to be it's going to be table stakes, I think, in many ways.
Okay, we've got no time, but I still want to do a quick lightning round. Starting with you, Kevin. When are we going to see recovery?
Well, we've modeled this 9 ways till Sunday. We had a model at the end of the year that said we were back to 50%. That model now says 25%. We're still hoping that we see a ramp up next year. A lot of this is going to depend, we all know, on what happens with vaccines. Can we get those kinds of things?
We're doing lightning, so unfortunately you broke up, but I'm going to
sorry.
JD next.
Yep.
JD, same question. I think we're recovering as we speak. It's just slow and steady, and I think probably when we get back to pre-COVID levels will be sometime around mid to late next year. And on a run rate basis, I think in certain areas it depends on the industries that we all service. It depends on international versus domestic, but I think that no one's going to be in a rush to get back to it. And I think I would venture to say end of next year, we start hitting a run rate that we've seen previous to the COVID and maybe 2019 levels.
Ariel, your crystal ball. When do we get to recovery?
I don't know. I think what's important to remember for all of us, people need our services. All of us, they need to meet face to face. It's important. I'm looking forward to have this kind of conference. We are all in the same, room and stage, and it will get back. When and how, I don't know.
Will, you get the last word. When will we get back to reality?
Let's go with JD's assessment and hope that we get a slow ramp up and then we get to the end of next year and the one after. But I think the real key is there is a pent-up demand. I mean, you've seen it in the chat windows. You've seen it from the attendance here. There is a real need to get together and solve some of these challenges, and I think people will do that just as soon as they possibly can do that safely.
Well, thanks so much to all of you for getting together with us virtually today, and we appreciate your insights. Thank you, JD, Ariel, Kevin, and Will. And since the audience can't applaud, we ask instead that all of you out there complete the short survey to evaluate the session. Either access the handouts icon or wait a moment for the survey to be pushed to you. And we want to thank you all for your participation in today's program, and we want to extend our thanks to the 90 exhibitors in the exhibit halls for their support. Here's hoping you got a lot out of today. We'll resume our program tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. See you virtually then. Thank you.